It's college football season, week one. We're doing our preview. Who is Western Michigan? Well, they might be a little bit scary, but honestly, football is here. And just like Johnny Five, I feel alive. Let's go. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We made it. We made it. Football here. This is the official week one preview, Western Michigan. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com. Use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th. On one order, it cannot be used with another. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. All right, I am Ryan Harings. This is Locked On Badgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always. And let's talk Western Michigan. Let's get into it specifically. Talk about their personnel. How did the Badgers match up? Keys to the game, my game prediction. It is game week. It is game day, basically, in like an hour and a half if you're in Central Time. All right, let's start with Western Michigan. Okay, MAC school, 4-8 last year. Let's break it down, who they are. Coach Lance Taylor in his second year as the head coach of Western Michigan. I think we always got to talk about the quarterback, right? Who are the Badgers facing at quarterback? Who is he? What skill set does he have? Which Badger quarterback would I comp him to? It is Hayden Wolff with like 2 Fs. So like Hayden Wolff, right? 6'5", about 210 pounds. He is a fifth-year senior. So there's experience there. Spent 3 years at Old Dominion, transferred up. Played about half the year last year, played 8 games. He did okay. He throws too many picks, about 60% career completion percentage, 38-21 touchdown interception ratio. So he's at about a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. Not great, and especially not great for a guy who doesn't complete a large percentage of his passes. Career rushing yardage is negative 165. So to me, if you're looking at who Hayden Wolff is as a quarterback, think like lower tier Joel Stave. Right. If you're looking for a Badger comp, basically a big pocket quarterback without a lot of mobility, has some questionable decision making. So that's who he is. That's who's facing the Badgers in Hayden Wolff. Couple interesting things on their offensive side. There is some stuff here that if you're a Badger fan, could cause Wisconsin a few issues. This is potentially especially for a MAC team, a really good running team. Okay. What have we talked about with the Badgers? Iffy defensive line. It's a potentially iffy defense line. We don't know, but this is definitely an area where if you're going into this season, one of the things you're worried about if you're a Wisconsin Badger fan is the rush defense. It's the ability to hold up in the trenches. This is a MAC school who's coming in with 4 returning starters on the offensive line. The 5th guy is a transfer from Notre Dame. For a MAC school, this is a really good, veteran, experienced offensive line. Their center, who is named, I got it right here, so I apologize. I lost the name. Jacob Gideon. Their center, Jacob Gideon, is one of the better centers in college football. Definitely one of the better centers in the non-Power 4 conferences. NFL Draft Mock says a player to watch from the group of 6 is Jacob Gideon, named first team All-MAC last season. Really good movement skills, the ability to angle and push people off the line of scrimmage. They also have a really good guard. So there's 2 really good offensive linemen there and a returning group of 5 that have played, or 4 that have played, and then a transfer from Notre Dame. Running back last year with Jalen Buckley ran for 1,000 yards, 5.3 per carry. I was watching film on him. He's an interesting back. This is a north-south runner, pretty well built, gets between the tackles, puts his shoulders down. He's pretty decisive. Not a running back in Jalen Buckley that's going to make a lot of people miss, but he's going to hit the hole hard and get what he can get. And then he has a little bit of speed if he does break out the back end. So you're talking about an offensive line that's pretty veteran, 2 really good linemen in the center and the guard. And then a returning running back who was ran for 1,000 yards and 5 yards per carry last year. So they have a rushing attack that can come in and potentially do some damage if the Badgers aren't ready to step up for that. On the receiving end, they have 3 veteran receivers coming back. So again, I had 2 different people. This was interesting to me. One who I was going back and forth with, he used to cover Western Michigan for Rivals. And he said, this is going to be a potentially explosive offense for Western Michigan. Keep in mind, last year's Western Michigan team, that was head coach Taylor's first year there. This is the second year with the system. They brought in Indiana's old offensive coordinator. They think with this trio of receivers they have, the really veteran and pretty good offensive line and Buckley at running back, there's actually quite a bit of hope that this is on their end a pretty good MAC offense. And the word I've heard two different people use, which makes me think they're probably finding the same source somewhere, is explosive, potentially explosive Western Michigan offense. So three pretty good receivers. Sambucci had 5 touchdowns last year, 15 yards per carry. They're also bringing in a slot receiver, former, I think, Florida State commit, Davon Mortimer Jr. They call him Bugs, and they call him Bugs for good reasons. He's a 4.3 guy, averaged 19 yards per carry or per catch at University of Louisiana Monroe last year. So they got some weapons on the outside. They have a really good MAC running back and a really good offensive line for a MAC level team. You can see if the quarterback has time, it goes back to Hayden Wolff. If he has time, if he can orchestrate, what he wants to do is complete passes in the intermediate. He wants to be kind of the point guard. If he can do that, this is a MAC team that's going to move the ball this year a little bit. So interesting, right? If you're looking at it through the lens of being a Badger fan, what have we been concerned about? We've been concerned about that rush defense. We've been a little concerned about being able to hold up against an offensive line. This is a good test early in the year, in a test that you should win, but a good one nonetheless. On defense, this is where Western Michigan starts to have a few more issues. Or they're replacing a lot on the defensive line. They are replacing a lot on the defensive line. And I don't know if they really found the replacements for it. The linebacking core is pretty good. Veteran, a couple guys coming back with over 100 tackles each. So good linebacker core, pretty good secondary without a lot of depth. They weren't able to really add to that depth in the offseason. Defense line, as I said, questionable. Linebacker core is pretty veteran, pretty good. And then the secondary, solid. It's a good tackling secondary with good tackling safeties, but not a lot of depth. So the strength of this team, to me, when you look at Western Michigan, when you talk to people who cover this team, the strength of Western Michigan is offense. It's a pretty dynamic group of playmakers on the outside, a really veteran, solid group of offense line with probably the best player on the team in the center and one of the best players in the guard, and then a returning running back that's really talented, over 1,000 yards. And again, you watch him on film, he looks like a guy who, if you don't stay stout in the line of scrimmage, is going to rip off 6, 7, 8 yard chunks, right? He's not a game breaker, but he's the type of guy who can consistently push the ball down the field. So if you're a Badger fan, you got to be aware of that. All right, we're going to take a quick break. That's kind of the scouting report on Western Michigan. I'm going to talk about keys to the game. What do I want to see Wisconsin specifically do offensively, specifically do defensively against Western Michigan? And then we're going to finish off with predictions and just some big picture thoughts with the season here. Really excited to have everybody here. Today's episode is brought to you. We're going to take a quick break. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Factor. Factor is the ultimate spot, right? If you need... I need it. Listen, I've been doing really good with my meals, but now that college football's here, I need to eat a little healthier. I need a sidekick in my health journey. Factor Meals is here right now to give you a ton of different variety. It's quick. It's easy. You can make it in 2 minutes. They're delicious. They're healthy. They have over 35 meal options with 60 different add-ons. So you're constantly getting different things with what you want. Factor Meals is incredible. Treat yourself to restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, which I've never had in my life. I've never actually had shrimp in my life. And blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum, which for me is huge. Keep cleanup time to a minimum, which for me is huge ×2, because I am not about that. No shopping, no prepping, no cooking, no cleaning up. All those things are amazing to me. That's like the quadrants of happiness for me. If I don't have to shop, prep, cook, or clean up, and I can just eat. That's what Factor Meals is here for. Plus, get you a little healthier. Head over to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. Use code LockedOnCollege50, and this deal's awesome. You're going to get 50% off your first box. That's a ton of food at half off. It's healthy and easy to make. What are we doing? Get it right now. Get it before the Badger game. Right now, plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com. Today's episode also brought to you by our ever loyal friends over at eBay Motors. They are here for you if you just need parts for your ride or die. I talked about it, man. Your ride or die gets you all sorts of places. When I was young, my ride or die got me to all the restaurants I needed to get to. It got me to the games I was trying to get to, the card store I was trying to get to. Your ride or die gets you everywhere. And we don't always treat it the best, man. Take your ride or die out for a little bit of love. Get it some stuff from eBay Motors, rims, car parts, spark plugs, audio equipment, all over there at eBay Motors. You can find everything you need, the right parts, the right fit, the right prices for your ride or die. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only, exclusions to apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Again, this is the fastest, easiest, simplest, cheapest way to buy auto parts. Why would you do it any way else? Why? And not during college football. You can't afford to leave the house now. There's games on. And if there's not games on, there's highlights on. If there's not highlights on, you're setting up your fantasy football teams. And if you're not doing that, you're in our Discord talking Badgers. don't have time to go to the car parts store anymore. Go to ebaymotors.com. All right, let's get back into this talk. Let's talk Badger keys to the game. What do we need to see offense and defense? Really excited. Again, we're here. We've made it to week 1. We've survived the desert. Let's talk about it. Okay. Offensively, keys to the game. Let me see what, and I'm curious what everybody thinks here. Keys to the game on offense. I think I might be a little, I was thinking about this more. And again, put in the comments, let me know what your keys of the game are, the players you think we need to key on. I might be a little counterintuitive here, but I've been thinking about it. And I think they just need to lean on the run. And it's not that I don't want us to go full Chris mode. Like, I don't want full Chris mode where we're never throwing unless it's 3rd or 8. That's not what I'm saying. But Phil Longo has talked a lot about we're going to utilize what works. We're going to lean into our strengths. He's had a North Carolina offense that had 2,000-yard rushers, right? Like, you have to lean into who you are. And I think for this team to be successful this year, the culture of this offense, the identity of this offense is going to be run first and then use the run to set up play action, deep passes, play action intermediate, suck the linebackers up, get Chez behind those linebackers, get Pauling behind those linebackers, use play action, get the safeties up, or force another linebacker onto the field. And then you have one-on-one on the edge with Vinny or CJ Williams or Bryson Green. I think that's the strength of this team. I really do. And I think it also allows Tyler Van Dyke to utilize kind of his big arm in play action situations to make the reads potentially a little bit easier. So it's not that I want to go out there and run the ball 45 times and throw it 10. But I think in this game, as boring as this might be for some people who still want to see like air raid unleashed, I want to see a heavy dose of Chez. I want to see a heavy dose of Mellusi. I want to see that inverted wishbone look we were seeing in practice, which is the 3 running backs, 2 running backs flanking the quarterback and 1 behind him. Let's see Jackson Aker lead the way on some power plays out of that. Let's see the running backs slip out, some screen action out of those. Let's see the physicality with this offensive line that we've been talking about for a doggone year, right? Let's see that group maul a Western Michigan defensive line that, quite frankly, isn't very good. Wasn't very good last year, and they got worse. They lost an NFL guy to the draft in the 2nd round. This Western Michigan defense line is the weakness of their team. You read scouting reports, you talk to people who cover it. It is a huge question mark. And we're lining up against that with an incredibly veteran offensive line and maybe the deepest running back room we've seen at Wisconsin in years. I think you got to maul them. I think you have to establish culture right away. This is who we are this year. We are going to be a capable passing game, but we are going to be able to run the ball when we want to run the ball. And I think that sets everything up. I think you do that, you get one-on-ones on the outside, which is going to be tailor-made for Van Dyke. Then you're going to be able to use Chez and Pauling like scalpels, like just carving up the interior defenses behind those linebackers that are sucked up into play action. So that's my number one thing on offense. I want to see you establish the line of scrimmage. I want to see Wisconsin and Longo be disciplined. And I speak to Longo as much as the offense on that. Be disciplined in what's working. Don't get too cute in week 1, right? We're not going to lose to Western Michigan. That's not what I'm saying, but don't get too cute. If you're able to consistently run the ball, rip off chunks on the ground and then use play action. I don't want to see 2 drives where we're really pushing the ball downfield. We're running the ball. We're dominating the line of scrimmage. We're mixing in play action. And then we come out and we throw 3 passes that are incomplete and we're off the field. If you're in a dominant rhythm running the ball, just keep running the ball, mix in the passing game. That's what I want to see. I think that's the key to what this team is going to have to be this year, because I think that is the strength of the team. I think it's the mauling offensive line and the deep running back room. I still think our receivers, while getting better and having really nice depth in the slot, I still think they're not where they need to be for us to be like a pass-first team, right? So that's my first key. Run the ball, run the ball. My second one, discipline. And I talked about Phil Longo, but discipline with receptions, discipline with penalties, discipline with, it is week 1. This is something Rajiv pushed back at me a little bit. And I understand his point. You can't be perfectly clean in week 1, but this is too veteran of a team. And now it's year 2 of the coaching staff. The simple mistakes kind of have to be phased out. And when I say simple mistakes, it's veteran receivers that if the ball's hitting you in the hands, you got to catch it, right? It's veteran tackles that last year we saw just jumping off sides, not knowing snap counts, being on the wrong page. Those are things that if you're seeing those week 1, right? That's a little sketchy to me. So offensively, run the ball, Be disciplined in who you are, which is catching the ball, no stupid penalties, no unsportsmanlike penalties, getting the calls in on time so we're not taking a delay a game or we're not having to take a weird timeout. Even if it's 31-10, you don't want to have to take a timeout if you don't want to, right? That's a sign of execution not being crisp enough. And those things shouldn't happen right now. They really shouldn't happen at that level. Now, there is going to be some stuff, miscommunication on an option route between Tyler Van Dyke and Trechkeka, who didn't play last year, and Tyler Van Dyke, first-year quarterback in the system. I'm completely cool with that in week 1, week 2, whatever. Like, those are going to happen. What I'm saying is these simple things that you would be upset with if you were a high school coach and your high school senior dropped a wide open pass like we were doing last year. Those things can't happen week 1. So make the plays you're supposed to make as a better senior-laden team, and then run the friggin' ball. The last thing I would say is I want to see a composed Tyler Van Dyke. What does that mean? It means in the opportunities that he has, whatever those are, whatever Phil Longo wants to give him, which are going to be plenty. Again, when I say establish the run, I'm not talking we're going to be Army, right? Or like 1994 Nebraska. Like, Van Dyke's going to throw it 20 plus times. In those opportunities, I don't want to see you throwing the ball into double coverage if you don't have to. I want to see you be smart with the legs. Don't take any silly hits, right? If the play's not there, tuck it and get 8 yards and get out of bounds. I want to see basically a 50-year senior quarterback, right? I want to see a leader of the offense. I want to see a guy who understands the bigger picture. Because if you struggle in some of those moments in a game against Western Michigan, good luck against Bama and what's coming down the pike. So I think it's the running game, the consistency, the discipline, and then what do we finally see from Tyler Van Dyke in his first action with real bullets? All right, let's shift defensively. What do you want to see? What do I want to see? And again, we're going to take one break after this and get into all your comments. Again, be excited, man. We're here. We made it. We made it together, and I absolutely it's awesome. Defensively, the big key for me is you got to get Wolff with 2 Fs, their quarterback. You got to get him off his spots. This is an immobile quarterback who has a tendency to throw picks and is not overly accurate. What do you got to do to those guys? You got to hit them. You got to get pressure, right? You got to collapse the pocket. You got to make them uncomfortable. You do that, and there's not going to be – I'll just say it. If you do that, there's not going to be an offense for Western Michigan. They're not going to be able to move the ball consistently if they can't protect their quarterback, because their quarterback can't create on his own. It's just not who he is. Again, think low-tier Joel Stave. That's basically who they're lining up at quarterback. And low-tier Joel Stave are even, and maybe I shouldn't say it. Just think a version of Joel Stave. I don't want to be like overly critical of him. Think a version of Joel Stave. That Joel Stave could hurt you if you gave him time. And this quarterback with some of the weapons he has, I think could do the same to some degree. So you got to get him off the pocket. You got to hit him. You got to get pass rush. Again, this is not a bad offensive line for Western Michigan. So it's a good challenge for us to start with, for Wisconsin to start with. So that's my first key. Obvious passing situations. You don't want to see him back there with 3.5 seconds where he can set his feet. He can scan the field. He's a 6'5" guy. He's got a pretty good arm. You got to hit him. Got to move him. And then the second one, I think, is the obvious one. I tied into what I mentioned with the offensive preview for Western Michigan. They're going to want to run the ball. They have a really good running back and a veteran offensive line and kind of an iffy quarterback. So you have to establish the line of scrimmage defensively. You have to just stonewall it, right? And this is if you win this test in week 1, it doesn't mean your rush defense is going to be great because it's against Western Michigan. But if you fail this test week 1, if Western Michigan is able to, even if it's a game that we end up winning comfortably, if they're able to consistently get 4 yards on first down, if Buckley's able to consistently get 4, 5, 6 yards, if we consistently have to bring linebackers up to help stop the run, if we have to leave a safety in the box for whatever reason, that's a really bad harbinger for the rest of the year. I want to see the defensive line, those outside linebackers. I want to see that front group control the line of scrimmage without Tressel having to make adjustments, right? And I think if you do that, then you put them in a passing situation, and then you force Wolff to be the guy to carry the offense. I don't think he's that guy. Then you start hitting him. I think those things happen, and this game runs away from Western Michigan really quickly, and Wisconsin pulls way out ahead. But I'm interested. Seriously, legit, I'm interested in this rush defense against that rush offense. It's a really interesting early season litmus test to see what progress we made. Again, this was a rush defense that gave up 3.9 yards per carry last season. against a schedule that was horrific. So can they get it to like 2.5 this game? That would be my goal. My goal would be to keep it under 3, right? To keep Buckley under 3 yards of carry. If you do that, that's a really good first step for the season. All right, we're going to take one more quick break, get back to your comments, game predictions. What score do you think it is? Who are you keying on? Am I wrong in what I'm keying on or what my projections and predictions are? Let me know. First, a quick break for our friends of the show over at 5 Hour Energy, and a quick second, as always, to say, honestly, just thank you for tuning in with us, for being there with us. We'll come back with game predictions next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for friends over at 5 Hour Energy. I talked about them. I have many things on the to-do list. I got to build offices for us in the barn or the garage so I can finally stop doing this podcast in the basement, like I'm living in my mom's house or something. You know, sometimes you hear my kids run around upstairs. I got 5 Hour Energy to help me get through that to-do list. I've got windows I got to hang, doors I got to hang, and then I got to design my new office. So I'm open to ideas for that, by the way. If anybody has ideas on what would be like a really cool backdrop for a Badgers podcast, hit me up. Let me know. I'll use my 5 Hour Energy to get that done too. Over at 5 Hour Energy, they're small, sugar-free, which is super important. They have great flavors. I had the watermelon the other day, which was really good. As I have mentioned, I did try a watermelon diet once in my life. I went a couple days just eating watermelon, which was interesting. I was pretty wired up. I don't have to do that anymore because I can just get my watermelon through 5 Hour Energy. Go to 5hourenergy.com. Use our code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Build your 12-pack or your 24-pack. You can't combine it with other promotional offers. You can't do it with subscriptions, but it is a great way to get an excellent deal on a little energy to help you get through your DIY list over at 5hourenergy.com. Promo code LOCKEDONCFB. Okay, let's talk game predictions. I want to see your comments. Let's see what you guys got here. Bo, why are you so down on Chez? Bo says he'll probably get 150, but 70 of it will be on one run. Like, can I just say this too? Because I've heard this argument from other places. Like, every great running back rips off long runs. You don't take every great running back's long run away from them and say, well, what would their yards per carry be without that? I don't know why people hold Chez to a different standard with that. And Bo, if I'm missing your point on that, let me know. But I don't know. I like Chez. I think Chez is in line for a pretty good year. I'm just really impressed with what I saw from Tawee, which is why I think Tawee's probably going to be the bell cow, and they're going to use Chez more in the passing game. Ryan Wiley says Western Michigan 14, Wisconsin 45. Let's go, Ryan. Strong name, by the way. JP says live fourth quarter Minnesota losing viewing party. Man, I'm here for anything Minnesota losing. I don't know if everyone has heard this story, and I don't want to sidetrack this too much, but my oldest son, when he was younger, I was teaching him. I gave him this USA map, and I took out because I thought I think maps are important, right? They lead to creativity. You see the world. So I gave him this USA map in puzzles. He put it together, and I took the Minnesota piece out without him knowing. So I gave him this puzzle. He put it together. He's like, Dad, there's no piece here. We're missing. I said, no, that's actually how America is. He was like 3 at the time. I said, that's where the hellfires hit. I'm like, yeah, that part of the country is just like a burning crap hole. That's actually how it is. And this is what the map looks like. So for years, he grew up thinking that the state of Minnesota actually didn't exist anymore. And it was just like this tire fire, literally. Eventually, my wife made me change that. So he wouldn't go to school thinking that. Mark D says, feed Chez. I'm telling you, like, first of all, like Chez has been a consistently good back. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And this is an offense that fits him better. I think he was starting to look more dynamic last year. You go back to the Purdue game. I think they're going to give him a lot of reps this year. I really do. And I think they trust him. Again, the thing I'll say is most Badger fans seem to really trust this coaching staff. Not all, and I don't want to paint with a super broad brush, but most seem to really trust this coaching staff, right? You trust Fickell, you trust Longo. Well, who do they have as the starter? They have Chez. So if you trust them, why are you not trusting them with the running back depth chart? I'm telling you, they really like Chez, is my point on that. Let's keep going here. Mark D says, what happens if the passing game doesn't work tomorrow? We get worried because this isn't a great passing defense for Western Michigan. They don't have depth. I think you use 4 receivers quite a bit. You spread them out because their depth isn't great. So you get some guys on the Western Michigan defense on the field that they don't want out there. And if you can't exploit that, then it's going to be a long year. I think it's as simple as that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you come out and you can't get open receivers, if Van Dyke doesn't look good, if the pass pro isn't there, if any one of the above, like if you're struggling in those aspects against Western Michigan, I mean, Alabama's going to eat you alive, right? Oregon, Iowa, those schools are going to murderate you if you can't pass effectively against Western Michigan. So, yeah, Bo says if you can't pass against scrubs, fire Fickell. I'm not saying that, but the first part of that, I think he's totally right. If you can't pass against Western Michigan, it's gonna be an iffy season. Tim says he's a marginal running back at best, not near starter quality. I disagree. I think Chez is a starting caliber running back. I don't think he's an elite starting caliber running back, but I do think he is a starting caliber running back. JP says, I actually disagree about running the ball just because we think it'll be easy against a team you'll beat anyway. Work on your weakness and pass a bunch. So listen, that's a really good point. And I'm glad JP brought it up because I think that was an issue in a lot of Chris years is there were moments we should have been working on our passing game and we just didn't. And then when we needed it, we didn't have it in our back pocket. I think the difference with this team and this year is I think this team is going to have to rely on the run game. And you have to work on that as well. That's not just something that you snap your fingers and have. So I think that's a part of it is I want to see us work and establish what is going to be what I think is our culture this year on offense is going to be more of a run power team that's going to play off of that for the passing game. But the other thing is when I say establish to run, like Longo's still going to throw it 20 times. Longo's still going to pitch it around because that is part of what he does. And he's very good at counterpunching. That's been a lot of his coaching career. And if we just keep running the ball, if we establish that, Western Michigan will commit to stop it. And whereas Chris would almost just double down on, we're going to run it anyway. You put 8 in the box, we'll get 9 blockers. If Western Michigan starts creeping a safety up, Longo will then he will pivot to the pass game. So I definitely hear your point on that, JP. But I want to see us establish a running game. I actually want to see it work. I want to see us dominate the line of scrimmage. And then I want to see us play off that because I think that's how we're going to have to win games this year. And I want to start perfecting the way I think we have to play to win. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. 100%. I could absolutely be wrong. Let's see. Definitely no injuries. Cujo, as long as no injuries happen. That's a huge one for sure. What do you guys got for scores? I have 38-13. I think the line of this game is 24.5, so I have us just covering. Although I think that line has gone down recently, but I think it's a 38-13 game, somewhere in that range. If it goes off kilter for that, because I've seen a lot of people predict like 45-13, 38-13. I will say there's another game script, in my opinion, where this thing starts kind of slowly because Western Michigan is actually running the ball a little bit because we're establishing the run. Maybe there's some first week 1 jitters, which can happen. We've seen some weird stuff already in week 0 and week 1 in college football. So I could see like a much lower scoring game where our defense plays really, really well. Both teams, they just kind of try to run the ball. The clock goes quick and it's like a 30-6 game. I could see that 27-6. I could see a game script like that as well, 27-10, somewhere in there where it's never in doubt, but it doesn't feel quite as dominant as we would hope it to be. Atheist says 27-13. That would be that kind of game script. Bo says Badgers run for 1,000,000 yards. Wisconsin 57. Western Michigan 17. I like that. Coach Mack, good dude, by the way, says fire Fick. Nah, get rid of Longo if they can't move the ball through the air. Yeah, and that would be Fick's not going anywhere, man. Fick is absolutely not going anywhere. But yeah, I will say this, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I will say this. The fire will get turned up on Longo a little bit if this offense struggles for a second year. And I don't know what would happen at the end of the year. I'm not saying he'd be on the hot seat, but he would be on the hot seat. Coach Mack, can we get the referees from the Colorado game to help our receivers tomorrow? Yeah, those refs were rough. Those announcers were rough too. Okay, let's wrap it there. Again, game tomorrow. I love it. I'm excited for it. There will be a recap show right after. Join us live. Let's talk about it. I mentioned this on the basketball show we just did, but send me right after the game, send me a quick video clip of your reaction to the game, how you're feeling, player of the game, whatever it is, like 30 seconds. Send it to me. We're going to compile them. We're going to play them. We're going to have fun with that. It's going to be kind of the community reaction show. So send that to me on Twitter, email ryanharings@gmail.com, however you want to do that. And then we'll celebrate or we'll mourn together. But I think it's going to be a celebration tomorrow on Wisconsin. Appreciate the absolute heck out of every single one of you for being here on the show, for supporting the channel, for being part of this amazing community. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So thank you for that. On Wisconsin, let's get the dub tomorrow. And then let's jump on the show and let's talk about it afterwards. Let's go.